Okay guys, welcome back to Bikes and Bits. So normally we have a bit of fun on the channel, talk about bikes, footage of me riding. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit more serious, and that is riding motorbikes during the coronavirus lockdown. So stick around and we'll go into details of my own experience of this and what you can do to work within these regulations as they currently exist. Okay guys, so we're currently in almost a year, coming up to the anniversary of the first lockdown. It's changed all our lives totally in a way we would have never expected. And a lot of people who are in the motorcycle community have realised that these restrictions that have been imposed on all our lives now affect your hobby or the thing that you love to do, the passion, which is riding motorcycles. So let's get into it. I'm going to talk about my personal experience on the channel. There was a video uploaded to the channel where the content was motorcycling and one of the best roads to ride on. The video itself drew lots of positive feedback. You know, bikers were talking about the bikes they love, talking about the best roads to ride on, where to go. It was really good actually. There was a lot of engagement. And a few people wrote negative comments, primarily around breaching, as they saw it, the regulations that have been set in place due to the pandemic. And following on from that, there was a comment on the video from an account that just said Dyfed Powys, and it said Dyfed Powys police have received complaints regarding this post. They went on to remind me that Wales is in lockdown and lockdown restrictions are in force. Talked a little bit about speed limits, which I agree with completely. And then just concluded by saying comply with the current legislation. Also saying consider enrolling on a rider improvement programme to help your lines and road position. Wales will still be here after lockdown, thank you. So it ended with a nice note. Obviously they'd received complaints. So the effect of that comment was to kill the discussion on the video. Obviously no other bikers really wanted to be discussing having fun out riding with essentially a representative for the police's social media involved in the discussion. Following on from that, I actually received a letter from the police themselves, which I'll show you here. And we just went on to say we've received complaints regarding a video that was posted on YouTube. Be aware, Mid Wales is under lockdown laws. Only essential journeys are permitted, so I'll come back to that bit. Sightseeing, shooting videos for YouTube, and pleasure riding does not fall into this category and leaves you liable for a fixed penalty notice. Okay. In this instance, they said they're not going to proceed with fixed penalty. But obviously if you go back and ride a bike again, this incident will be included. So they haven't really committed to saying what they will or won't do here, which, as you'd imagine from a legal perspective, leaves them open to do whatever they want in the future. It says, and again ends on a nice note, we would welcome you to return when the restrictions have been relaxed. So, not totally a negative message, but a little bit disappointed to receive this on a few counts. So the first is that obviously there was a lot of positive discussion on the video, a lot of people talking about things they love, the passion of motorcycling. A few people wrote negative comments on the video, which is part and parcel of being on YouTube, opening yourself up to the world. But they also went on to complain, and then obviously the police or representative from them wrote comments on the video as well. I would prefer, as it's in their mind a legal matter, that they stuck to established protocol in the fact they send letters to my place of address rather than writing on the channel. I feel that gives quite a negative vibe to what was a lively discussion. Some of the points they made were good. The bit about being on a rider improvement program, obviously to help my lines or road position, you could read that as helpful or you could read that as condescending depending on your view. As I said, it ends on a positive note. So what I would say is that I guess that misses some of the point about being involved in new media, and to be a motorcycle enthusiast and building a channel around this topic, you obviously have to go out of the house and you have to work towards building that into a successful career, essentially. So obviously the channel's very small at the moment, but one day I hope this to be my full-time job. I want to do what I love and get paid for it. And obviously we're at the very beginning of that journey, but nonetheless it's still a journey and we need to make progress on that goal. So to describe what we were doing as sightseeing is missing the context of again, the channel and building that up. And the other thing which I think is important to note is that motorcycling really helps your mental health. So especially during lockdown, if you've got a passion or hobby, whether it's some kind of sport, outdoor activities, or indeed motorcycling, you really take your mind off being cooped up in this pressure cooker by being on a motorbike and just letting your worries sort of float away as you just drift around these bends and enjoy the scenery and feel the sort of wind buffeting against you. It's an amazing feeling, and it really does help clear your mind and clear your head. I think it's very, very, very beneficial for mental health, and a few other people are coming around to that point of view as well. It's becoming a bit of an established thing that riding a bike, being in that moment, just you and the machine, helps clear your mind, helps your problems drift away. So if you were to look at, and I've got some examples of exemptions for motorcycling. Now, exemption 4 in the section of exemptions for leaving home is to avoid and manage illness. So if you do have a pre-existing mental health condition, it seems reasonable to me that you could be riding a bike in order to manage that condition. So that's number one. The other one, which applies quite strongly, I feel, to me, is the fact that I'm traveling for work purposes. Yes, it is fun. Yes, we were recording. Yes, it's going on YouTube. But essentially, this is my part-time job at the moment. I hope for it to be a full-time job. So I believe that is a valid exemption. The fact that a conclusion has been reached by people who were viewing the video and members of law enforcement, members of the police community, have made a conclusion straight away based on a very small snapshot. So I feel disappointed about that. If you do want to ride a bike during this pandemic, obviously commuting to a place of work is a valid exemption. Essential travel is a valid exemption. Managing your mental health condition, it is, I think, an appropriate exemption. It may not be as watertight as that. They may say, well, there's plenty of other things you could do to manage your mental health, but I think it's still something that you could use. You could also volunteer. So there's another exemption called Exemption 2, which is if you're working for a recognised charity. So there's plenty of reasons why you can legally ride a motorbike during the pandemic. And the fact that people are very quick to jump on the bandwagon and judge what you're doing is an unfortunate sign of the times. I think loads of people out there are desperate to get out on their bikes and ride, especially with the nice weather coming. And the fact is that motorcycling does very little to spread or contribute to any kind of transmission of the disease. You are buttoned up in basically a suit of armour with a helmet and visor down. You can pay for fuel with a contactless beep with your card. You don't have to talk to anyone. You ride alone. And the fact is, I think we're all getting swept and hit with the same draconian measures when the impact of riding a bike is tiny. It can't even be contributed to anything, can it? But that said, where we are in this situation, and there were arguments for and against. So I'm sure people will write in the comments, well, what if you crashed and you'd have to go to hospital and you'd be taken at beds, blah blah. I'm sure there'll be arguments on both sides. I'm putting across my point of view. Obviously, if you take the mickey and 15 of you meet up for a group ride and you're all talking and intermingling, then you're going to attract attention. But for the lone rider who is out for the reasons of managing your health condition, and mental health is as important as physical. If you're commuting or performing useful work, you have to ride a motorbike to do so. You know, I don't see an example of Ride magazine shooting videos on motorbikes within a lockdown environment. They are out, they are on location, and they are filming content for an established business. And this is obviously different for new media, which is obviously the YouTube and other social platforms. It's not treated the same. So I'm going to wrap up there, guys. Just sharing my experience of what's happened. As I said, I'm grateful nothing's going to happen further with this incident. It's a shame that it's happened the way it's happened, but yeah, we live and learn, and I'm going to think very carefully about how we approach this in the future. So if you've got any views on the matter, if you think one way or the other, then please jot down in the comments below. And I'm genuinely interested to see what people's views on the whole situation are. If you could, please give the video a thumbs up, because that helps us with the YouTube algorithm. You're watching it anyway. It's a tiny little click of the mouse or the screen, and obviously you help us immensely.